You know what they say about getting what you want? Sometimes it's exactly what you deserve. I'm Clara, I'm 26, and I just learned that lesson the hard way. But let me back up and tell you how I ended up here. Because this whole thing started with a plan that should have been foolproof. So picture this. I'd been dating this guy Aaron for 2 years. 2 whole years of my life invested in someone who just up and decided one day that he needed space to figure himself out. What kind of garbage is that? We had this amazing connection, incredible chemistry, and he throws it all away because he's having some quarter-life crisis or whatever. I was devastated. Not just sad, I'm talking full-on can't eat, can't sleep, checking his social media every 5 minutes, devastated. That's when I met Nicholas at this coffee shop downtown. He was sitting alone with his laptop, actually working instead of just pretending to be important like most guys do. Clean-cut, stable job in finance or something equally boring, drove a reliable car that he probably bought certified pre-owned. The complete opposite of Aaron's chaotic artist energy. And the way he looked at me when I accidentally bumped into his table? Like I was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Here's where I should probably feel bad about what I'm going to tell you, but I don't. Not really. Because Nicholas was exactly what I needed at that moment, a placeholder. Someone safe and predictable who would worship the ground I walked on while I figured out how to get Aaron back. And trust me, I knew Aaron would come crawling back eventually. Guys like him always do once they realize what they've lost. The first few months with Nicholas were almost too easy. He'd text me good morning every single day, bring me coffee exactly how I liked it, remember every little detail I mentioned in passing. It was sweet, I guess, but also kind of pathetic how eager he was to please me. Aaron never needed to try that hard because he knew I was already hooked. Nicholas was trying to earn something Aaron had gotten effortlessly. I moved in with him after about 4 months. His apartment was nice, nothing fancy, but clean and organized in that anal way some guys have. He cleared out half his closet without me even asking. Bought groceries I liked, made space for all my stuff like he'd been waiting his whole life for me to show up. Meanwhile, I'm posting cute couple photos on Instagram because I know Aaron follows me on there, even though he pretends he doesn't care what I'm doing. The whole time, I kept Aaron updated on my relationship status through mutual friends. Nothing obvious, just casual mentions about how happy I was, how well Nicholas treated me, how we were talking about moving to the suburbs someday. Basic stuff that would eat at Aaron's ego. Because here's what I knew about him. He's competitive as hell. Tell Aaron he can't have something, and suddenly that's the only thing he wants. Nicholas, bless his heart, had no idea he was part of a larger strategy. He thought we were building something real together. He'd talk about future plans like they actually mattered, get excited about stupid couple things like matching coffee mugs and shared Netflix accounts. I played along because it served my purpose. But inside, I was counting down the days until Aaron realized what he'd given up. The funny thing is, Nicholas used to be quite the player before me. He'd tell me stories about his past, how he used to juggle multiple women and never commit to anyone. Said meeting me changed all that. Made him want to be better. It was actually perfect. His reformed bad boy act made our relationship look even more serious to outsiders, like I was the one special enough to tame him. But I kept my real feelings locked away. When Nicholas would hold my hand or kiss me goodbye in the morning, I felt nothing. Well, not nothing exactly. I felt satisfied that my plan was working. Every "I love you," he whispered, was just more ammunition for when Aaron finally came to his senses. And I knew he would, because guys like Aaron can't stand being replaced, even when they're the ones who did the replacing. About 8 months in, Aaron started reaching out more. Little texts here and there, asking how I was doing, mentioning things we used to do together. I'd respond just enough to keep him interested, but not enough to seem desperate. It was a delicate balance, but I'm good at reading people. I knew exactly how much attention to give him to keep him hooked. Nicholas never questioned why I was always on my phone or why I'd step out to take certain calls. He trusted me completely, which honestly made everything easier. I'd tell him I was texting my friend Christina or dealing with work stuff, and he'd just nod and go back to whatever he was doing. Sometimes I almost felt bad about how naive he was, but then I'd remember that this was temporary. Once Aaron and I got back together, Nicholas would move on and find someone who actually wanted to be with him. The real breakthrough came when Aaron started complaining about being lonely. He'd been dating around since we broke up, but nothing serious, nothing that stuck. He kept comparing other women to me, talking about how no one understood him the way I did. That's when I knew I had him. All I needed was the right moment to make my move. I started creating little problems in my relationship with Nicholas. Nothing major, just enough friction to make it seem like we weren't as perfect as my social media suggested. I'd pick fights over stupid things, then run to Aaron for emotional support. Poor Nicholas would be left wondering what he'd done wrong while I was across town, getting exactly the validation I'd been craving for months. The best part was how Aaron ate it up. He loved being my shoulder to cry on, loved feeling needed again. I'd show up at his place with tears in my eyes, talking about how Nicholas didn't understand me, how our connection felt forced compared to what Aaron and I used to have. And slowly but surely, Aaron started admitting he'd made a mistake letting me go. Nicholas tried so hard to fix whatever he thought was broken between us. He'd plan special dates, buy me little gifts, ask what he could do to make me happy. It was almost sad how desperately he wanted to hold on to something that was never really his to begin with. But I kept up the charade because I needed him to stay devoted until Aaron was ready to take me back officially. Then one night, about 10 months into our relationship, Aaron finally said the words I'd been waiting to hear. He wanted me back. He missed what we had, realized he'd been an idiot to let me go, wanted to try again. Everything I'd worked for was finally paying off. That's when I knew it was time to end things with Nicholas. I'd gotten what I needed from him, and now it was time to move on to the main event. I felt almost giddy with excitement as I planned how to break up with him. After all the months of pretending to care, I could finally be free. Looking back now, I probably should have been more careful about how I handled things. But I was so focused on my victory that I got sloppy. I'd been texting Christina throughout the entire relationship, keeping her updated on my master plan. She was the only one who knew the truth about what I was really doing, and I told her everything. Every boring date with Nicholas, every step closer to getting Aaron back, every detail of my strategy. I guess I thought Nicholas was too trusting to ever look at my phone or laptop. He'd never shown any signs of jealousy or suspicion, never questioned my story about anything. So when I'd leave my messages open or my phone face up on the coffee table, I didn't think twice about it. I was so sure he was completely clueless about what was really going on. The night I decided to tell him the truth, we were just sitting on his couch watching some random show. I can't even remember what it was because I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy thinking about how good it was going to feel to finally drop the act. I'd been playing the devoted girlfriend for almost a year, and I was ready to stop pretending. I looked over at Nicholas and felt this weird sense of satisfaction. He had no idea what was coming. He probably thought we were going to spend the evening cuddled up together like some boring married couple. Instead, I was about to blow up his entire world. "I have something to tell you," I said, and I couldn't keep the smile off my face. This was it, the moment I'd been building toward for months. He muted the TV and turned to look at me, probably expecting me to suggest we order pizza or complain about work. Poor guy had no clue. "I was just using you to make my ex jealous," I said, and I felt this rush of relief at finally being able to say it out loud. "Aaron came back, so we're done." The look on his face was priceless. Not angry, not devastated, just completely blank, like his brain was trying to process what I'd just said. I'd expected tears, maybe some begging, definitely some drama I could tell Christina about later. Instead, he just sat there for what felt like forever before saying one word. "Okay." That threw me off completely. "Okay? That's it?" Where was the emotional breakdown? Where was the pleading for me to reconsider? I just told him our entire relationship was a lie, and he responded like I'd asked him to pass the remote. "That's all you have to say?" I asked, genuinely confused by his reaction. "When's he coming to get you?" Nicholas asked, and his voice was so calm it was almost eerie. I blinked, trying to figure out why he wasn't more upset. He'll be here in an hour. I need to pack my stuff. I'll help, he said, getting up from the couch like nothing had happened. And that's when things started to go sideways, though I didn't realize it at the time. I was too busy feeling victorious about finally being free to notice that Nicholas was acting strange. He disappeared into his office while I started throwing my clothes into boxes, humming to myself because I was so happy to be done with this charade. When Aaron's car pulled up outside, I practically ran to the window. After months of sneaking around and playing games, I was finally going to be with the person I actually wanted. Nicholas helped carry my boxes downstairs without saying much, which I thought was mature of him. No drama, no scene, just a clean break. Aaron was leaning against his car looking as gorgeous as ever, and I felt that familiar flutter in my stomach that I'd never felt with Nicholas. This was what real attraction felt like. This was what I'd been missing for the past year. We loaded everything into Aaron's car pretty quickly. I was directing traffic, telling them where to put things, feeling like I was finally in control of my life again. On the last trip down, Nicholas was carrying the lightest box, and I noticed him walk over to Aaron's car while Aaron was busy with something in the trunk. I didn't think much of it at the time. I was too focused on getting out of there and starting my real life with Aaron. When I came back downstairs with my phone charger, Nicholas was standing by the car looking completely normal. "No hard feelings, right?" I said, because I was feeling generous in my victory. "Nope," he replied. "Good luck with everything." And that was it. Aaron and I drove away, and I felt like I was finally exhaling after holding my breath for a year. I'd done it. I'd gotten exactly what I wanted, and it had worked out perfectly. The first couple of days back with Aaron were everything I'd dreamed they would be. We talked for hours about how much we'd missed each other, how stupid we'd been to waste all that time apart. The chemistry was still there, stronger than ever. This was what I'd been working toward for months, and it felt incredible to finally have it. But then, 3 days later, everything exploded. I was unpacking my stuff in Aaron's apartment, humming to myself and feeling completely content, when Aaron walked in looking like someone had punched him in the stomach. He was holding a stack of papers, and his expression was darker than I'd ever seen it. "We need to talk," he said, and something in his voice made my stomach drop. He tossed the papers on the table in front of me, and I saw immediately what they were. Screenshots. Pages and pages of screenshots of my text conversations with Christina. Every cruel joke I'd made about Aaron, every detail of my plan to use Nicholas, every nasty comment I'd made about both of them. My mouth went dry as I stared at the evidence of everything I'd said in private. Messages where I called Aaron pathetic for still being hung up on me. Jokes about his small apartment and how he probably couldn't afford anything better. Cruel comments about our intimate life that I'd shared with Christina for laughs. And worst of all, the detailed timeline of my manipulation plan, including my prediction that 6 more months with the boring guy should do it. "Where did you get these?" I whispered, though I already knew. Nicholas. Somehow that sneaky bastard had been documenting everything. "Found them in my car," Aaron said, his voice flat. "Fell right out of the sun visor when I pulled it down yesterday." I tried to deny it at first. Told Aaron that Nicholas was obviously obsessed with me and had faked the whole thing to ruin my life. But the messages were too specific, too detailed, too obviously in my voice. There was no way anyone could have made them up. Then I tried the tears. Started crying about how hurt I'd been when Aaron left me, how I'd only written those things because I was angry and missed him so much. I begged him not to believe some printed papers over me, the woman who loved him. But Aaron just stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "It's not just the insults," he said quietly. "It's how calculated you were. How cold. I wasn't a person to you. I was just a prize you wanted to win back." That's when I knew I was screwed. The tears weren't working. The excuses weren't working. Aaron had seen exactly who I really was, and he was disgusted by it. "Pack your stuff," he said, and his voice was colder than I'd ever heard it. "I want you out." I started screaming then, telling him he was ruining our second chance over some stupid messages, that Nicholas was a psycho who couldn't handle being dumped. But Aaron just pointed to the stack of papers and said, "The guy you called a pathetic loser is kicking you out of his sad little shoebox." He used my own words against me. My own cruel, thoughtless words that I'd typed without thinking anyone would ever see them. And then he started putting my boxes in the hallway, telling me to call someone to pick them up because he was done. I tried everything. Begged, pleaded, promised I'd changed, swore the messages didn't mean anything. But Aaron had already blocked my number and was acting like I didn't exist. In less than an hour, I went from having everything I wanted to having absolutely nothing. Christina had to come pick me up and my stuff, and she was furious about being dragged into the drama. She'd been getting calls from mutual friends who'd somehow heard about the whole thing, and she was not happy about being associated with my mess. "This is insane," she kept saying as we loaded my boxes into her car. How did he even get those messages? But I knew exactly how. Nicholas had been playing me the entire time. All those months I thought he was this naive, trusting guy who worshipped the ground I walked on. He was actually documenting my betrayal. Probably laughing at how stupid I was, how careless with my phone and laptop. The worst part was realizing how long he must have known. All those sweet gestures, all those loving looks, all those times he said he loved me. He knew I was using him. And instead of confronting me or causing a scene, he just quietly collected evidence and waited for the perfect moment to destroy me. Over the next few days, I tried everything I could think of to fix the situation. I called Aaron from different numbers, but he'd blocked those too. I showed up at his work, but security escorted me out. I even tried reaching out to his friends, but they all knew what had happened by then. The screenshots had spread through our entire social circle like wildfire. Everyone knew exactly what I'd done and what I'd said about both guys. There was no spinning it, no way to make myself look like the victim. My own words had condemned me. I tried to go after Nicholas for money, claiming he owed me for various expenses during our relationship. But he had receipts for everything. Proof that I'd never contributed a dime to rent or utilities or groceries. When I threatened to report him for stealing some jewelry I claimed to have left at his place, he sent me a screenshot of my own text to Christina about selling that same necklace months earlier to fund a weekend trip. Every move I made just made things worse. Every lie I told was immediately exposed by evidence I'd forgotten existed. Nicholas had been so thorough in documenting everything that I couldn't even create a false narrative about what had happened. Then I made the mistake of calling his family, trying to convince them that Nicholas was unstable and obsessive. His sister Michaela listened to my sob story for about 5 minutes before cutting me off. "I've seen the screenshots," she said coldly. "We all have. Don't call here again." That's when it really hit me how completely I'd destroyed my own life. Not only had I lost both guys, but I'd lost the respect of everyone who knew me. My own manipulation tactics had been turned against me, and there was no coming back from it. 2 weeks after everything fell apart, I found myself standing outside Nicholas's apartment in the rain, desperate enough to try one last time. I'd been staying on Christina's couch, and she was already getting tired of my drama. I needed somewhere to go, and despite everything, Nicholas had always been the reliable one. When he opened the door with the security chain still on, I put on my best victim performance. Tears, apologies, admissions that I'd made a huge mistake. I told him he was the one who'd always been there for me, the one who'd treated me well, that Aaron meant nothing compared to what we'd had. But Nicholas just stood there listening to my speech with this expression I'd never seen before. Not angry, not hurt, just completely done with me. "No, Clara," he said when I finally finished. "This isn't your home, and you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice, a very deliberate, planned-out choice. It just didn't work out the way you wanted." The tears stopped immediately. I was so shocked by his response that I couldn't even keep up the act. "Your plan was to use 2 different people as your personal stepping stones," he continued. "Now you have no one to stand on. That's not my fault. That's on you." I tried to argue, tried to make him see that he was being cruel and vindictive. But he just looked at me like I was a stranger. "You're only here because your plan failed," he said. "You don't want me. You want a place to land because you have nowhere else to go." But you're the one who burned the landing strip. And then he closed the door in my face. I stood there in the rain for a while, yelling and pounding on his door, but he never opened it again. Eventually, I had to call Christina to come pick me up, and she was not happy about being woken up at midnight to rescue me from my own mess. That was 4 months ago, and things haven't gotten any better. Aaron is completely out of my life, blocked on everything, moved to a different neighborhood, started dating someone new who probably doesn't even know I exist. Nicholas moved on too, and from what I hear through mutual friends, he's doing great. Better than great, actually. Meanwhile, I'm still sleeping on Christina's couch, and she's starting to make noises about me finding my own place. My dating life is a disaster because word has gotten around about what I did. And apparently guys talk to each other more than I thought they did. Every time I think I'm making progress with someone new, they somehow find out about my reputation and disappear. The worst part is that everyone acts like I'm this terrible person who deliberately set out to hurt people. But that's not how it was. I was just trying to get back together with someone I loved. Yeah, maybe I wasn't completely upfront with Nicholas about my feelings, but it's not like I forced him to date me. He could have walked away at any time. And sure, maybe some of the things I said to Christina were a little harsh, but those were private conversations between friends. I never meant for anyone else to see them. It's not fair that my private thoughts got used against me like that. Look, I'm not saying I handled everything perfectly. Maybe I could have been more honest from the beginning. But Nicholas knew what he was getting into when he started dating someone who'd just gotten out of a serious relationship. And Aaron was the one who broke up with me in the first place. So really, everything that happened after that was his fault. I just don't understand why everyone is so determined to paint me as the villain in this story. I made some mistakes, sure, but who doesn't? At least I was fighting for love, fighting for what I wanted. That has to count for something, right? But apparently, it doesn't. Apparently, I'm supposed to just accept that I've lost everything and everyone, all because I tried to get back together with my ex. It's ridiculous, and it's unfair, and I'm tired of pretending like I deserve all this punishment for just being human. The truth is, Nicholas and Aaron both got exactly what they deserved. Nicholas got to feel superior and vindicated, and Aaron got to walk away feeling like the victim. Meanwhile, I'm the one dealing with the real consequences of everyone else's choices. But whatever. I'm done caring what people think about me. I'm done trying to fix relationships that were probably doomed from the start anyway. And I'm definitely done letting other people control my narrative. Maybe someday they'll realize what they lost when they decided to team up against me. Maybe they'll figure out that I was just a woman trying to fight for love in a world that punishes you for having feelings. But by then, it'll be too late. I'll be long gone, and they'll be stuck with their boring, predictable lives, while I'm out there living mine. And that's fine with me. I never needed them anyway.